All right, Tone. So Monarch, Legacy of Monsters. We had a lot of high expectations for this show.
Mm-hmm.
We were excited to see how they were going to build on the whole legendary Warner Brothers Godzilla of Monsters in the Monsterverse.
Yeah.
And how they were going to flesh out this Monarch, this shadow agency that's been in all the movies, but just kind of like they're there.
Yeah.
You know they're up to something. You know they're privy to information, but we really never got anything like deep into what they are and what they're looking for and what their purpose is. That was the purpose of this show. Tone, I thought this show was actually really, really good. I know the focus. Again, anytime you watch anything that's related to the MonsterVerse, and if there's not an overwhelming amount of monsters, there's a weird group of folks that are just like, this show fucking sucks. I want monsters everywhere. You do get a fair amount of monsters in this. It's just not the ones you're used to seeing. Mm-hmm. It's not Godzilla. It's not Kong. It's not King Ghidorah. It's just some other types of, like, what are they called? Not primes.
Titans.
Well, Titans. You kind of get like I don't want to say second rate, but like they're like second tier, like other guy, things that you've never seen before. Creative monsters, but you're not here for the monsters.
Right.
They're the concern. It's kind of like War of the Worlds, that movie with Tom Cruise. Like, it's about this alien invasion, but you never really get to see him because it's the story that's building up to it.
Until later, and they scare the shit out of me.
Yeah, and they're fucking terrifying.
Fuck.
But, like, that's what this was. And I thought it did a really good job. And, Tone, the one thing I know you've mentioned that I agree with you 100% on, it's sometimes if you have a show that tries to bounce between time frames or different times and try to connect the dots, sometimes it can be a little jarring and sometimes it can be just not very effective. This is one of the best shows that has managed that very, very well.
Yeah.
Because every time there was a scene from the past with the characters, it was very related to what was going on in the present.
Mm-hmm.
And it added context that was necessary to understand the motivations of the people in the present,
Right.
but based on what happened in the past. So I really like that setup. But like, what else stood out to you about this show in general?
And I feel like I always start with this, and I'm always going to start with this when it comes to the show. When we first heard rumors of this years ago, and what I wanted to see from the show, which was I didn't want to see all the monsters. Yeah, I want to see monsters, don't get me wrong, but
Sure.
I want to know more about what Monarch is, what they've been doing, all that stuff.
By all accounts, it sounds like they haven't done much.
Right. But I wanted that to thread into, like, maybe give clue to other stories and spin-offs on a smaller scale. We always know the big screen's going to be for the Godzillas, the Ghidorahs, the Mothras, the this, that, and the others. But, it gives more room for flexibility and potentially for other future things from, like, Toho universe that we can see. Could we see a King Caesar through this? Could we see a Hedorah? Who knows, right? So this did what I wanted it to do. Now, I can tell you before I jump too far what I think at the end of it, but I can tell you right now from somebody who's in way too many probably Godzilla groups that you wouldn't believe exist on Facebook that it's a fucking mess out there.
Right.
It has been a mess since episode 1.
Sure.
Because there is a lot of people that want to just see monsters beat up. I mean, it was like that. It was like that with 2014. It was like that with King of the Monsters.
It's low-hanging fruit, man. They just want to see explosions and loud noises, and that's cool, man.
Some people don't want a lot of substance, and I understand that. I am not that person. I like a lot of boring-ass storytelling, unfortunately. I like a lot of character develop. I like slow-moving stories or whatever it might be. And then once in a while, throw me a bone. And they did in this, and I thought they did well. Now, I'm still quizzical on trying to figure out with the separate family thing and why they went that route. It doesn't make any sense to me yet, even at the end.
Yeah.
I just don't understand why that had to be the way it is to bring a couple characters together. I feel like that was a little bit different and odd, but I digress on that. But
unless it's something they're going to explore
maybe
going forward in the movies, because obviously that's their legacy is Monarch.
Maybe they will. But the thing that this show did that I wanted to do was how they threaded it so well with the big movies and stuff like that, but it existed on its own island perfectly the way it was.
Yeah.
Because we learned things that we didn't know. We got background for things we didn't know. We got some details we didn't realize that you kind of didn't know sometimes you needed the answers to, but we got those answers. And it just felt like more cohesive, because when you jump around with, like, for instance, 2014 Godzilla, and then you got King Kong, you're like going back in time, you got different characters, but they're still Monarch. You're like, whatever, this fucking, it was like basically having the jigsaw puzzle and you're missing the corners. This gave you the corners finally to it. And it just felt like it all fit really well. But again, I understand that a lot of folks out there didn't like it because it was just humans, it was storytelling, it was boring to them and stuff like that. Now, were all the episodes consistent? They were not. I think there was definitely some episodes in there like we all talked about, saying, well, that's kind of fucking boring, blah blah blah. But there was some other great episodes as well too, and I think by the end they succeeded in doing what they wanted to do, which was effectively lead us into the next couple of movies as well too, or the movie with Kong, the Rise of the Empire, the whatever the King. Well, I can't even think of it right now, but because we're learning more. We learn more about, like, we've always heard about Hollow Earth, the wormholes, the center of the Earth thing with the Hollow Earth or whatever. Now we're learning about, like, where these things exist. Well, now we had that explained, and while it leans a little bit more into the supernatural-esque or like spacey time thing, I mean, we're already watching big fucking monster stomper and things, so you've already suspended your disbelief regardless at that point. So you might as well just have a little bit more with it. So this definitely, ironically, though a lot of people didn't enjoy it, I felt like had a little bit more nods to that, like, mysticism that the Toho Japanese storytelling did because of that, which I actually thought did a really good job of that as well too. Like, the whole time distortion thing was great.
See, I love that, and I love how they use that to explain Kurt Russell's age and, like, how he looked the way he looked.
That reveal was really cool.
But the only issue I have with that is it doesn't quite sync up with Godzilla vs. Kong, because they all went into Hollow Earth.
They weren't. No. They weren't in Hollow Earth. That's the difference. You're getting this. There's two different things.
I thought they were in the same spot.
Hollow Earth is completely different. Where they were at was like was like where the Titans, like, live and come from, was like out of time and space. Hollow Earth is completely different. That's where Kong is from.
Oh, okay.
So that's two different things.
That's
at that
a mistake
point.
on my part then. I didn't interpret it that way. I was just like, that seems weird, because they were in there for like maybe 20 minutes, but I mean, based on what they're saying, I was like, that seems like they would have shown up after the Godzilla fight.
And this also happens, like, parts of this movie happens before Kong versus Godzilla as well too. But they are two different areas, and they don't do a great job explaining that, so that's an easy miss on that as well too. But how they explained him and, like, his age, I thought that was cool, because then you go back.
That part made a lot of sense.
Then you go back to that first episode.
Shit.
You're like 91. He's like, kind of thing, like he kind of thing.
Yeah, dude. When they did that, I was so appreciative of it. I was like, okay, fucking thank you for making sense of that.
Yep. And the Kiko thing, like, all that reveal, like, that was like, whoa, that was out of nowhere and kind of cool as well too. A little weird, but I really enjoyed that explanation. But it also kind of makes sense when you got these beings that have been around for millions and billions of years, and why is this thing not aged and old? Well, now you've got an explanation.
I know why.
So I do agree that the acting wasn't always super great. It wasn't always very consistent. You were going to get great acting when the main three younger of the older characters were on there. When you had Anders on there. I
actually didn't have too much of an issue with the performances. I thought. I mean, and I get it.
Some of the smaller characters I feel like were kind of, like the friend with and some of the, like, I don't know. I thought she was a little off, but
I know.
I did. Some of the kids stuff, like the younger generation, was definitely a little cringy. How they.
But I tell you what.
But either way,
for my money, when Yamamoto and Kurt Russell, the final episode, when they meet after Kurt Russell comes back, Lee Shaw comes back, and he's older, and he explains to Keiko what's really going on. I mean, seriously, I thought that was some of the best acting we've seen in the legendary movies, like the entire universe.
It was really good.
That episode was fucking powerful stuff. Like, seriously, that scene in particular was just like, I was just like, man, that's fucking heavy, because she was incredible. Like, Kurt Russell, obviously, he shows up, he's got that gravitas he knows, and obviously we always know that Kurt Russell has that range. He can do heavy emotion. But old girl, she was more than up to it, and the way she handled that scene, I was like, that is fucking top tier acting. Like that, like I came away from that scene, I was like, I mean, I didn't expect that to really hit me the way that it did.
Yeah.
Like, it was an emotionally charged scene. The reveal that she discovers about what is going on and how the time is affected there.
Starts asking about family.
That
and stuff
whole
like that.
fucking scene, I was just like, dude, that is just two people who are on the same wavelength. They're feeding off each other, and you got to see one of the greats and Kurt Russell do it, and a relatively unknown come up there and match him one for one. I was just like, that is a fucking powerful.
They had
scene.
a couple of that scene earlier on too, when they're
Yes.
outside on that dock was really good as well too.
Like I said,
so
it was that was Wyatt Russell.
Yeah.
I mean, her.
oh
that
yeah,
was
yeah,
great.
well, that was why.
But I mean, still, Wyatt Russell was great. Like he just knows how to play. He's himself, and his dad has the same mannerism.
He's his dad.
But that final episode, again, that scene, and not Hollowworth, but in the other place that we're at, that scene with those two, I was just like, that's fucking really good raw acting.
Two last things just overall about it that I feel like one was kind of a miss. Like, we couldn't have gotten Ken Watanabe in this.
That was
Monarch,
the one thing I was like, can we please get him
and her and
the other
lady,
girl? Yeah, like can we
something,
get them to show up? I was really hoping we get a
better
cameo.
to those movies a little bit, yes. But the reveal at the end, which was a surprise, which was a certain corporation and a company, that was a great twist.
I didn't know that was going to be a thing.
They had alluded to it about like the 4th episode because she was at her computer,
right, and she was on the phone. She was like, "That's what our
and
new."
I was like, oh, and then shit, because this was 2 years after, so this would have been 2016 Godzilla time frame, because this was be about a year, so 2017. So this was right before King of the Monsters.
Was Apex in King of the Monsters?
That was being led by Charles Vance's team.
You're right. Okay. Oh man, that was like I said, I thought this was a really good show.
There you go. Yeah, so
it was a good show, man. Like I really enjoyed it, and I got to see enough monsters. I already know I'm gonna see Godzilla again. I already know I'm gonna see Kong again.
Yeah.
I don't need them to show up, but that was cool when Godzilla does show up. You're just like, okay, cool, man. Nice little nods. Goji's still here. You still get this and that, but like I was happy to see the other Titans. Some of them were probably kind of creepy. Some of them were kind of like, I was like, okay, I hope maybe we'll see them somewhere. Yep. But like they did a really good job of just like really diving into Monarch, and kind of like, Monarch's inability to get anything done, but also understand there are people there who still believe in the original plans for Monarch and what they wanted them to do.
It's like shady a little bit.
Yeah. And there's a little bit of leadership, like quarreling with leadership and how they want to handle things.
It's all bureaucracy, money, and red tape.
But I tell you what, man, they accomplished their goal for me. I got to learn more about Monarch, that agency. I got to know about their competition going forward. That was fucking wild. And again, like I said, I just love Kurt Russell, and I think Wyatt Russell is going to be a star growing up. But for me, it was that last episode, the scene with Keiko and Lee Shaw, that I was just like, this is really top tier stuff. Like this is really impressive for what is widely regarded as just like, you're just here a popcorn film. You're just here for the explosions, the kaiju battles, and that's it. But we got to see a lot of like really talented people do their best work in a while. So
was it a great? For me, I feel like it was a great show. I really loved it.
I liked it a lot.
I think there was a lot going on out there. I don't know that everybody necessarily agrees. Like I said, I know the Godzilla community is really quite split on it. But I feel like they always kind of are to some degree as well too.
I think it really just comes down to there are some people that hey man, I'm here for Godzilla.
Some people just want to see
kaiju
things.
battles.
Yeah,
and I get it. But there's some people that want things to flesh out a little bit more. And we saw though with Godzilla -1. You can have a fucking great Godzilla movie and still have fleshed out characters and a good story.
Yep.
So I mean, I'm there for everything. I want everything.
And I feel like they leave it open ended to their could potentially, depending on the success, do another season of this. I would be fine either way. I would love more of it because, I like more things outside of just the big movies and stuff like that. Like Marvel is supposed to do with Disney Plus, but at the same time, if it just ends up being a standalone, I'm fine on that too.
I'd be totally fine. I'd be totally content if it was a standalone item. But we want to get you guys and girls' thoughts. If you watched Monarch, Legacy of Monsters, how did you feel about it? Do you feel like it did was it good for the Monsterverse? Was it good to flesh things out, or do you feel like it was like something I don't really care? I'm just here to see monsters. I'm just gonna stick to the movies. Did you feel like it benefited the Monsterverse, or was it just kind of like a one-off thing where you're like, okay, that's cool, but I'm done with this, and I don't need to know anymore about Monarch. I just want that goofy agency that's just there just to provide people or fodder for all the big kaiju. Is that what they're there for? So let us know in the comments if you're watching on YouTube. Sound off if you're listening to the show on podcast, iTunes, Spotify, everything, all major podcast services. We want to hear your thoughts. I really enjoyed it until they went into the Quantum Mania and then never went back. I need to finish it though. I think you should finish it. I mean, I get it. Like I said, but I was a little confused by it as well. I thought there was someplace else, but now that I think about it, mentioning it to Tone, I don't remember them going through any kind of a portal in King of the Monsters, or not. I'm sorry, Kong vs. Godzilla when they go into
They're
Hollow
just going
Earth.
to Hollow
They
Earth.
just kind of go on, but there is kind of a portal. Are you going to talk about Reacher anytime? I feel like I need to start watching Reacher because Jay Hill is just going to ask this at the end of every episode.
We'll get to it someday. I mean, it took him 4 years to watch The Boys. So
Tell you what. What I'll do is let me give me to the end of this month before Comic-Con. I'll see if I can get through all Reacher. How many seasons are there? 2?
2, and they're only like 8 episodes each.
8 episodes. By the end of this month, I will power through.
It's not like you do work at work anyways.
I mean, I do.
No,
I mean, Tricky knows that. He knows I'm a fucking animal.
You don't
at
work
dude.
either, so
Tricky hasn't been